Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to this episode of Business Innovators Radio. This is guest host Donna Gunter. Today we have with us Diane Gilson, President, InfoPlus Accounting Incorporated, and a published author, speaker, and professional QuickBooks trainer. Diane created InfoPlus Accounting in 1994 to help business owners establish job cost accounting systems so they can access critical day-to-day operations data using QuickBooks as their primary management accounting tool. Diane's passion is designing, customizing, and upgrading accounting systems and financial controls for small to medium-sized construction and manufacturing companies. Her online workshops offer job cost and management accounting training using QuickBooks and Intuit Enterprise solutions, as well as in-house products to teach, troubleshoot, and coach clients and other accounting professionals throughout the United States. As a published author, speaker, and professional QuickBooks trainer with over 30 years of accounting experience, she is viewed as a leader in her fields of expertise. Well, welcome to the show, Diane.
Well, hi, Donna. Good to be talking to you today.
Oh, I can't wait to dive into what we're going to talk about with all of your wonderful experience. But I want to start by asking you to tell us about InfoPlus Accounting and how you're helping your clients.
As you alluded to, and I'll go into it in just a little bit more depth, we do help construction and other project-oriented companies learn how to set up their job cost accounting systems in QuickBooks. A job cost tracking and monitoring system is kind of magical because it means that they can see which of their jobs are making money and which jobs are losing money so they can make better decisions. And it's a case we're seeing both the good news and the bad news works in your favor. If people get these kinds of systems set up, when company owners have this concrete information about what's happening with individual jobs, they can become far more profitable. So, for instance, if there are certain kinds of jobs that are spinning out of control, they can access the problems and address the problems right away. Or if they can see their numbers based on job codes or work stages, they'll know which parts of the work need to be handled differently so they can improve their operations. Or they might find that they can quit working on those loser jobs. Everybody seems to run into those sooner or later and focus on the winner jobs. Or they might find out they're not charging enough for certain kinds of work. Or maybe they find out that their costs are changing underneath them and eating away at their profit margin. By using our training programs to set up their internal management and job cost reporting systems, they get to see that critical information that they really need to see so that they can be more profitable.
Well, Diane, it's kind of difficult for me to think that construction companies would be set up without this kind of management tool in place. What are they doing prior to setting up this job costing accounting to view their jobs and how profitable they are?
Oh, gosh. So many people come in, not everybody, okay, but so many people come into construction through a family business, or maybe they were working for somebody else doing certain aspects of construction like carpentry, and they kind of feel like, oh, gosh, I can probably just make more if I start my own company, and they just don't have the background training. And so lots of times maybe they'll set up, people lots of times start out with what I call the shoebox method, where they just throw everything into a shoebox or something like that. A lot of them will sit down and try to work things out on a spreadsheet on their own. But those are kind of messy and difficult ways to deal with their numbers. Yeah, it's just something that people don't really think about lots of times before they get into business. They're all about that they're really good at doing a particular thing, and they want to go out and do the thing they're really good at and help their clients. The numbers side, though, you're not going to stay in business if you're not profitable.
Well, as people take a look at this and figure out how to implement that in their business, I'm sure you've come across some really big myths and misconceptions that your clients have about this whole construction job costing process. What are some of those that you can tell us about today?
Okay, well, there are three big ones. I think the first big myth is that the best way to make more money that people think about is, we're going to get bigger and we're going to sell more. And of course, that means I've got to hire more people and I'm going to have to work harder. But unfortunately, for a lot of folks, if they're not tracking their numbers on individual jobs and their profitability on individual jobs and ensuring that they're making excellent profits on every job that they take on. Selling more can actually be the fastest way to grow broke. If you heard me say grow broke, okay? Because unplanned and uncontrolled growth can be one of the most dangerous activities a company can undertake. So it's something I call a dead zone. It's kind of a growth plateau. Unfortunately, the dead zone, well, there might be a movie out there called it. It probably is. But I'm not thinking of a movie. It's a place where companies can strangle and die. That's one of the myths. Another one that I find to be pretty common is that they think their CPA is the person who's going to help them set up an internal job costing system. And unfortunately, that's just not what CPAs do. My background is as a CPA, and I worked in a CPA firm for several years. CPAs just don't have the inclination or the time to help people set up management systems within their companies. So they don't even like doing that kind of work. There's that feeling that, my CPA kind of knows everything there is to know. But I think the third myth is that they think a lot of company owners think they should just be able to outsource their job costing to a bookkeeper somewhere who's not part of their company, somebody who doesn't work in or even know their industry or how that company even does business or what job costing is all about. In fact, job costing does need to be handled in-house by somebody who has their finger on the pulse of the business.
And who's the person most likely to do that within the company?
Yeah, and you know who gets elected lots of times?
Who's that?
The spouse. Spouse of the owner.
That wasn't in the wedding vows, I don't remember.
Yeah, sometimes it's a mom, okay? Sometimes it's a relative, sometimes it's a neighbor, sometimes it's the office manager, okay? So, but one of the big issues for those folks is that they're not trained. So it sounds like I'm just coming up against all sorts of dead-end walls here, but the real trick is to get somebody trained. It's a trainable skill. That's the big thing that needs to happen out there in the industry.
Well, I think that's a great segue to my next question about the fears that construction business owners have about this whole notion of job costing and trying to implement that into their business. What are the fears that they're facing as you talk with prospective construction business owners, prospective clients for you?
One of the things I hear all the time is people will call and they'll say, well, I'm not an accountant. I'm probably just doing everything wrong. I just don't get it. I'm dumb. Okay, that really cracks me up because they might not have been trained in accounting. But if you think about in any environment where there are a lot of projects going on, particularly in construction or even manufacturing, if you think about all the numbers and the measurements and the systems and the complexity the construction owners have to juggle in order to get their jobs done, they know all about numbers. They know all about systems. And accounting is just a different system that they need to learn something about. It's all about organization and numbers that fit together in a logical way. So when we get good measurement systems in place and organize that information into an understandable format, I usually find construction company owners love seeing their results and their scores. Okay, so if you kind of think about it as a game and they're getting to see their scores on a regular basis, they can get excited about it. So I've actually accused a few of them of being closet accountants. It's just a matter of getting trained.
Well, what you brought up there in terms of allaying their fears by making that generalization of, all the measurements and the numbers that they have to use in the erection of a 4, 5, 6-story building. I watch HGTV a lot and see the carpentry and the construction that goes on and the measurements that they have to take. It's like, oh, thank God I'm not in that field because we would have really poorly built buildings because math is not my forte. Are there other ways that you help ally their fears to get them on board with the job cost accounting?
Again, we do offer a lot of training classes, and a little bit later I could talk more about how I got into that general area. In some cases, they might say, well, what if it doesn't work? And I say, well, in your field, it's kind of like saying, well, what if your HVAC, which is your heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, doesn't work? First of all, history has proved that in our society, at least, the system almost always works. And if it doesn't, you fix it so that it does. In other cases, they might be worried about what other people will think. I don't think that's a really big deal. But of course, I don't see that having a job costing system in place is going to cause any big negative social repercussions. And sometimes I think about, oh gosh, there's the two construction people out on the golf course, and one of them says, yep, I'm going to put a job costing system in place because I think it's going to help me make some more money. And even if his golf partner raises his eyebrows and says, what are you doing that for? You don't need that. I'll bet that golf buddy walks away and starts wondering if a job costing system could help him make more money. I don't think there are any big repercussions. Just learning how to run your company more effectively and profitably just seems like the best possible way to avoid personal risk. Because if you don't, you have really big risks. Getting past that is, we just fear what we don't know. I mean, that's usually the case. It looks like a big black blob out in the future. But if you just jump in and start learning some things, I think that most people find that it's a lot more fun than they think. And I've even had company owners come to me and they say, well, I just don't understand these statements, because they've got some financial statements prepared by someone. And I look at them and I go, yeah, well, I don't understand them either. They aren't laid out to make any sense. And so if we can get those numbers organized in a way that's logical, almost anybody can learn how to read their own numbers.
Well, that's a good point that you bring up in terms of organizing that in a way so that it makes sense to people. I know earlier you talked about one of the situations you often encountered was the shoebox method of accounting, where people throw receipts in a shoebox and kind of throw it at the accountant and say, here, figure this all out. Are there other well-known or little-known pitfalls or common mistakes that business owners make when they're trying to do their own job costing without going through your training?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, we kind of mentioned that they might be waiting for their accountant to offer. Okay, so if you think about that shoebox method, they throw it at their accountant. Well, maybe their accountant's going to be able to do the tax work. Okay, but it's not doing the business owner any good to find out in April or September of the following year that they lost money. They're not going to know where it happened, and by then it's way too late to do anything about it. So the trick is to stay on top of it and know what's going on as it's happening, and that's why you want that in-house. Another thing that they may encounter is that they just might not even know what to ask for. In many cases, it's a case of that they don't know that they don't know. Okay, so getting folks educated is that this is a possibility for them. If they're not financially oriented is a big thing. So just even opening their mind up to that possibility, oh, maybe there's another better way to do things. They might not know where to go to get the right training. Of course, that's why we're here. The other thing is I find that lots of times they'll go, oh gosh, this is just going to take me a really long time. I just don't have time. I need to be out on the job. So here's one way to think about it. It's not unusual for a construction company that's been around for a few years to be hitting the $1 million range. So let's say if you could add 10% of your gross revenue at $1 million, if you could add another $100,000 to your bottom line by knowing your numbers, getting rid of your losers, working on things that are good, and let's say it took you 40 hours of training. And I'd say that's kind of on the high end for most business owners. But if you took that $100,000 and figured out how much is that per hour for 40 hours, that's about $2,500 an hour. And that's just for the first year, okay, of return for your time. So I'm going, yeah, $2,500 an hour isn't a bad exchange for an investment of time. And of course, that return just keeps coming back year after year, because as they learn how to run their company better, they just keep continuing to earn at a higher rate than the people who aren't on top of their numbers.
Well, Diane, you mentioned earlier that sometimes this whole job costing and the whole accounting function falls to a spouse or a family friend or, maybe an office manager in the company. Is it necessary for somebody to hire to dedicate a full-time staff person to this, or is it something that most construction companies can throw in with another piece of the job, make a full-time position?
I see it handled in a lot of different ways. Generally, again, it depends on the size of the company and the volume of transactions that they're handling. So quite often, this role can be folded in with another role in the company, such as office manager. I often suggest that people create dedicated time for people to work on the system rather than being continually interrupted. I like the company owner to really get their fingers in and understand the numbers, as well as having somebody in the office, because a knowledgeable company owner who knows how to look at their numbers, knows what to expect, and uses those numbers also provides a great check and balance on somebody else in the office who's doing this type of work. I view it as a team effort between the company owner and whoever's handling the books.
Yeah, it seems like something that the company owner would definitely need to know, especially if he's the one who's also in the job bidding process. He's going out and being called out to bid on different jobs. And if he could run the numbers through his head really quickly and figure out, oh, well, this is not even worth my time and effort to bid on this job because I know this is not going to be profitable for us. It seems like that would be something that the company owner would definitely need to be on top of at all times.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of profits are lost on the very front end of the job. You can shoot yourself in the foot before you even start a job by not knowing your numbers.
Well, Diane, I can tell that you've got lots of experience in this field. I'm sure you've got lots of stories that you've experienced along the way of helping your clients overcome the obstacles to getting job costing efforts implemented into their companies. Can you share one or two of those with us, your success stories of how you've made a difference in the lives of your clients?
Oh gosh, well, I've been helping construction companies all over the country for the last, should I say, 25 years. It's true. Hate to admit it sometimes. But I used to go out and travel and sit in their office for a week or two to help people clean up and restructure their books, and then train them how to make the entries, and at month end how to check their own work. And then eventually, with the streaming capabilities of the internet, I was able to transition to doing the same things by connecting computer to computer with the clients located anywhere in the country. You know, that I can see their screen, they can see their screen, they can move the mouse, I can move the mouse, and so on. We're all seeing the same thing. So I've done that for a number of years now that we have that capability. But I think our greatest success is that so many of our clients have learned how to do this totally on their own. So they're not dependent on us. We teach them how to fly. They can go off and be on their own, but then eventually, maybe 5 years, 8 years, 10 years later, they'll come back and they'll go, oh, I want to implement purchase orders. Can you help me do that? And I just really feel great that they've remembered us for that period of time and used what we've taught them as the basis and then come back to us for that. So to me, that's really one of our biggest success pieces. Are you interested in knowing how we got into the whole online video part?
Oh, sure. That would be a great piece to add in.
What happened is I was doing so much of that, and we were actually kind of getting bombarded almost with more work than one-to-one consulting work than we could handle. And, I had tried training some other people in-house, but everybody kind of, after a year or two, they go, oh, well, gosh, I know how to do this. So they'd kind of go off on their own to do it. And so I was kind of explaining this to a management consultant one day, and I said, gosh, I just need to figure out how to clone myself. And he says, no, you don't need to figure out how to clone yourself. You need to figure out how to clone what you do. Fortunately, we were kind of at a stage on the technology side, and I had another friend who helped show me how to do recorded videos. And so I spent like the next year and a half to 2 years pulling together all this knowledge I'd been accumulating and putting it into a class type format and recording it and getting it out on our website into a program that people could actually access online 24/7 whenever they wanted and at a rate that's far more affordable than my hourly rate. It means anybody who really wants to learn job costing can do it any time of the day or night and at their own convenience. Right,
and their staff can look at it and learn from it at their own convenience as well. I mean, you're probably on the cusp there. Higher education is going to more and more online training. I see accolades being given to colleges and universities, being featured as the top 20 in business online education or education degrees online education. So you were at the cusp of that, Diane, in terms of transferring your knowledge and skills to a form that could be repeated and viewed at any point in time by people who needed that without having to rely on you being there in person.
Exactly. And you bring up a good point about consistency. When you have somebody in-house that's working for you and you get them all trained and they're in good shape, and then something happens. Maybe they have to move to another place or to another job. Well, then you've got to go find somebody to replace them. And, they might have a whole week's overlap with the next new person. And the next new person comes in and goes, oh, well, I think I'm just going to do it this way. A different way than what the prior person did. So having online training like this helps to keep that training consistent, from person to person over time, because I'm sure most of the company owners out there have experienced turnover, and it's not a lot of fun. And it's even less fun when people decide to do things their own unique way.
And even though I don't do job cost accounting at all, I rely a lot on online training, even if it's just something as simple as I did something 1 month and then it's another month or two before I have to do it again. And I'm like, how did I do that? So I have to go back and watch the video again to refresh my memory, because if you don't use something, you lose it. And as I get older, I find I'm losing things more frequently, unfortunately. But having those videos to rely on is amazing. I'm only assuming that your clients feel the same way.
Yeah, well, and we do that in-house, even for our own procedures and so on. We've been working very industriously over the last year and a half to get a whole variety of things that we do documented so that there's consistency. And consistency is huge in a business.
Well, Diane, earlier in our conversation, you talked about that your background was an accountant before you got into the whole construction industry and job costing. Tell us a little bit about your life story and how you made the move from being in accounting to specializing in doing job costing for construction companies.
Oh, gosh. Well, this is probably kind of an unusual story, how I even got into accounting in the first place. I'm not sure if you'll recognize the name of this company, but I had a variety of part-time jobs in order to get through college. It took me some years. I didn't have a full 4-year sponsorship from somebody. I kind of did it over a period of time. And one of my part-time jobs as I was working my way through school was to travel to small Michigan and Ohio communities and set up temporary Olin Mills phone call rooms. And Olin Mills is a photography company. We'd hire these local ladies to call through the community, find a room and set up card tables. And the idea was to sell these 3 8x10 color family photos in what was called the Olin Mills Club Plan for like $9.95. And after a certain number of sales, the Olin Mills photographer would come to town and take the family pictures. So I wasn't involved in the photography part of the business, but I was responsible for collecting the $9.95 per club plan, paying the delivery people and reporting on their time and giving the phone people their sales bonuses and reporting daily results to the home office. And, we have to do a money order, send everything in and write up the reports. And sometimes I kind of had to struggle a little bit to make everything come out right. But I also found out how much fun it was to conquer those numbers and make everything turn out exactly right. So when I got to the point in my college classes where I had to decide on a major and a minor, I decided I really liked the concept of helping a business owner collect information so they could use their numbers to run their business better. I just didn't, there are a lot of other steps that follow that. And I really didn't have an inkling at that point that I'd eventually go on to figure out how to become a CPA at a CPA firm and then work at a bank for 13 years as an internal auditor and in the finance department. But I did all of that, and I had a number of people saying, you ought to start your own business. And everything just all kind of came together. And I started my business in 1994. So I have to thank Olin Mills Photography Studios. And I'll bet some other ones of your listeners have Olin Mills photos tucked away somewhere for igniting my interest in numbers. It's where I first got bit by the accounting bug.
And at what point did you make the transition then into the construction industry?
Well, it was shortly after I started my company. I had been doing product line costing in the bank. I was head of the management accounting department. And I went to a professional meeting, and one of the ladies at that meeting, I was telling her I was getting my company started. She said, hey, my husband's a builder, and you ought to go over to the Home Builders Association because these guys really need some help. So I said, oh, okay. It sounds like it'd be kind of up my alley because I've been doing the equivalent of job costing, product line costing. And I found that I really enjoyed, my first 2 clients were in construction. I joined the Home Builder Association, and I found out I really enjoyed working with construction owners in general. I mean, obviously, you can't draw totally broad conclusions, but they're huge contributors to their community. They're really hard workers. The fact that they can conceptualize, design, and create beautiful homes or remodels or do the intricacies of the system, it just never ceases to amaze me. And I've also found that working with folks in the industry, that they're really straightforward, honest, positive thinking, problem-solving entrepreneurs, just the kind of people that I really like working with. So it didn't take me, it took me maybe a year and a half to finally narrow my practice down to say, yep, we're focusing on construction. On the front end, of course, I just kind of was happy to get business. When you start your own business, you do a lot of different things. I even started out doing some taxes. Didn't enjoy the tax work. I had done it when I was in the CPA firm and gritted my teeth and did it, but I was even able after a bit to be able to say, no, I'm going to let the CPAs do that. I'll help people on the side where I really have a good time. And that's on the management accounting side. I think it's fun.
Well, it's obvious from your glee that as you talk about accounting, that you have a lot of fun in your job and a lot of fun working with your clients. Construction owners are thinking about maybe doing something else in their business to figure out, why they're losing money or how to earn more money. What are some of the most important questions they should be asking or things that they should consider as they take a look at job costing or finding somebody to help them in the job costing process?
Okay, so I think the first question, the first opening up of the mind, has to be, if I'm not as profitable as I think I should be, is there a possibility that having better information that's immediately accessible to me, would that make a difference? Just becoming aware and entering into that thought process of, gee, maybe there's something more that I could be doing on this side of the fence is really the first big step. Okay. And so if your listeners would like an opportunity to see what a job costing system or what different kinds of job costing systems implemented by different types of people might look like in real life, I do have a gift that they might want to look through. It's something I wrote called A Tale of Four Companies, a job cost and gross profit percentage drama. Long name, but in spite of the long title, it's a quick read. And so if they would like to get that for free, they can type in their browser, buildyournumbers.com, buildyournumbers.com/podcast, and then they can go pick that up.
Well, Diane, that's a great segue for you to tell us a little bit more about the other training that you offer, and then how our listeners can get some additional information if they want to and find you online and how you can help.
Sure. Our primary website, just as you heard, is buildyournumbers.com. So if people go to that site, they're going to find all sorts of free resources and blog articles and videos and so on that they can get at absolutely no charge. And we get really good feedback on that site and the information we have available. And then recently I've responded to somebody in a forum where they were asking about, what should I look for when I'm evaluating an accountant? That's a decision that can have a major impact on your business success and your financial future. So I've also put together another thing that maybe somebody would be interested, at least keep in your reference file at some point. I've got a good checklist, and it's called Choosing an Accountant, 13 critical questions to ask, and that's also something they can download at no charge. You can get it by going to buildyournumbers.com, that website, and putting in / and then 13 questions. And that's 13 questions, no spaces. And that will take them to a page where they can access that PDF download. And I think that they'll find a lot of really good information in there. There's a bio about me out there if they want to know more about me, but it's really more about them and the information that they may find to be of value.
Well, Diane, tell us a little bit about the training programs that you offer on your site.
Okay, well, we do have one called the Construction Accounting and Management Program, and we have some variations on that. So there are 3 different levels. It's subscription basis, and people can learn more about that by going to the site and looking under the Construction Accounting and Management Program. We only open that up periodically for people to jump in, but if you're out on the site and you put in your name and email, we'll always let folks know when we reopen that program. It's subscription basis, and you have a variety of options to choose from within that, and lots of topics. We actually have about 90 hours of online training available through that program. And even some of those programs have one-to-one consulting. One of the programs has 18 minutes a month, because we work intensive an hour, 18 minutes a month of one-to-one time with me or with another pro advisor on our staff. And another one of the programs includes up to an hour a month of one-to-one time.
Well, guys, you have heard it here first. Diane has lots of great resources on her site offering 2 free gifts that you can download, and we will put that information, those URLs, again in the show notes. Thanks, Diane, for being our guest today on Business Innovators Radio. I appreciate all of you listening to today's episode. Take care. We'll see you soon on our next episode.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.